Did you know that over 100 people have lost their Australian citizenship in just the last few years? Yes, it's real. And it's not just terrorists or criminals. Some were ordinary people who made one mistake. You might think being born in Australia makes you untouchable, but new rules, hidden clauses, and updated government powers mean that even long-time citizens could suddenly find themselves without a country to call home. Think about it. What if your online activity, your travel choices, or even your silence in the wrong situation put your status at risk? What if you could lose your passport without any warning? No trial, no hearing, just a notice in the mail. These are not conspiracy theories. These are legal possibilities under existing laws, and most people have no idea. In this video, we're diving into the 10 shocking ways you could lose your Australian citizenship, starting from the least known to the most dangerous. And trust me, you'll want to see number 1. Number 10. Dual citizenship gone wrong. On the surface, having 2 passports sounds like a dream. You can travel freely, enjoy the benefits of 2 countries, and feel like a true global citizen. But here's the catch. Australia has strict rules about how dual citizenship is handled, and if you make one wrong move, especially when applying for another country's citizenship, you could be seen as willingly giving up your Australian status. It's not just about paperwork, it's about intention, and that's where things get dangerously blurry. Many people don't realise that if you acquire a second citizenship while showing intent to abandon Australia, you could trigger automatic cancellation under Australian law. There have been real-life cases where people applied for foreign citizenship, renounced their Australian ties in the process, and unknowingly lost their rights as Australians. This includes losing access to Medicare, voting rights, social benefits, and even re-entry into the country. Imagine living overseas for years, then coming back to visit family, only to be stopped at the airport and told you're no longer an Australian citizen. So what should you do? Before applying for another citizenship, always consult a migration lawyer or legal advisor. Each country has different requirements, and some of them might require you to renounce your current nationality. Be extra careful when filling out forms, making declarations, or signing anything that suggests you're giving up your Australian identity. Even something that seems minor, like ticking the wrong box or using misleading wording, can cause irreversible consequences. Dual citizenship can be a privilege, but mishandling it can turn into a nightmare. Make sure your paperwork and intentions are crystal clear, because this one mistake could cost you everything. Number 9. Involvement in terrorism or espionage activities. This one sounds extreme, but it's very real, and it's already happened. Under current Australian law, if you're a dual citizen and are found to be involved in terrorism or espionage, even just through association or support, you could have your citizenship revoked. You don't even have to be convicted in a traditional court. If the government believes your actions threaten national security, they can act without warning. That's how serious it is. And in today's digital world, online behaviour counts too. There have been multiple cases in recent years where Australians were stripped of their citizenship after joining or supporting foreign terror groups like ISIS. In some situations, just travelling to conflict zones or sharing extremist content on social media was enough to raise red flags. ASIO, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, can issue a security assessment, and if you're considered a threat, the government can revoke your citizenship with no chance to appeal until it's too late. This doesn't mean you'll lose citizenship for a random post or heated opinion, but if your online presence or personal network includes radical or anti-Australian elements, even unintentionally, you're risking serious consequences. If you're a dual citizen, stay far away from any activity, group, or rhetoric that can be linked to extremism, even in a casual or ironic way. Also, avoid traveling to regions under surveillance unless absolutely necessary, and always make your intentions clear. Because when it comes to national security, the government isn't taking chances, and one misstep could mean your passport, your rights, and your future as an Australian citizen are gone in an instant. Number 8. Fraudulent citizenship applications. You might think that once you've received your citizenship certificate, you're set for life. But what if the government finds out that something in your original application wasn't quite true? Even years or decades later, your citizenship can be cancelled if it was granted based on false or misleading information. And the worst part? It doesn't have to be a major lie. Even minor inconsistencies or omissions can put your status at risk. There have been shocking cases where people lost their citizenship after it was discovered they had lied about their criminal history, faked documents, or misrepresented how long they had lived in Australia. One man lost his citizenship 8 years after becoming Australian simply because he provided fake work references to meet the residency requirement. The government reviewed his case during a routine background check, and that was it. No second chance, no appeals, just a letter informing him he was no longer Australian. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Always be 100% honest and accurate in your paperwork. If you're unsure about a detail, clarify it instead of guessing or skipping it. Be careful with visa records, job history, time spent overseas, and family information. Everything can be cross-checked, especially now that digital data is widely accessible across agencies. Even a harmless white lie might come back to haunt you. If your application was recent and you're feeling unsure about what you submitted, it's worth getting a professional immigration review. Remember, your citizenship isn't just a formality, it's a legal status that can be undone if it was built on shaky ground. Number 7. Serious criminal convictions. It might surprise you, but committing a serious crime, even after years of living in Australia, can cost you your citizenship, especially if you're a dual national. Under the law, the government has the power to strip citizenship from individuals convicted of crimes that go against Australia's national interests, such as murder, child exploitation, drug trafficking, or organised crime. And if the crime happens overseas, that still counts. One of the most alarming aspects of this rule is that it doesn't just apply to recent arrivals. Even if you've been a citizen for over a decade, if your citizenship was acquired by naturalisation and you're convicted of a serious offence, you could be targeted for cancellation. In several past cases, individuals convicted of major crimes were deported and banned from ever returning to Australia, even though they had family, jobs, and lives established here. So what does this mean for the average person? First, it's a reminder that citizenship isn't just a right, it's a responsibility. Your actions, even years after gaining citizenship, can be reviewed through a legal and moral lens. If you're involved in criminal activity, especially anything tied to violence, abuse, or drugs, you could face not just prison time, but banishment from the country altogether. If you've made mistakes in the past, now's the time to take steps to rehabilitate and distance yourself from illegal environments. Because when it comes to serious crimes, the punishment might not stop with jail. It could mean losing your place in the only home you've ever known. Number 6. Serving in a foreign armed force. Joining the military might seem like a noble path, but if it's not Australia's military, it could land you in serious trouble. Under Australian law, if you serve in the armed forces of a foreign country, especially one that is hostile or poses a threat to Australia, your citizenship can be automatically revoked. This applies mainly to dual citizens, but in rare cases, even sole citizens have faced legal consequences depending on the nature of their service. The law sees this as an act of allegiance to another nation, and that directly conflicts with your loyalty to Australia. There have been real cases where people joined foreign militaries, sometimes without fully understanding the legal impact, and later discovered they were no longer welcome in Australia. The law doesn't require you to commit a crime while serving. Just being part of a foreign force that Australia views as dangerous or unaligned with its interests can be enough to trigger revocation proceedings. So, what's the safe route? If you're considering serving in a foreign military for family reasons, dual heritage, or career opportunities, consult an immigration lawyer immediately. Some countries have mandatory service requirements and others allow foreign nationals to enlist, but that doesn't mean Australia is okay with it. Be especially cautious if the country in question has strained relations with Australia or if there's any conflict of interest. What may seem like a personal or cultural decision can have severe national security implications in the eyes of Australian law. Bottom line, if you wear another country's uniform, you might be saying goodbye to your Australian identity without even realising it. Number 5. National Security Risk Designation. You don't need to be charged with a crime to lose your citizenship. Just being labelled a security risk can be enough. Under expanded powers granted to national intelligence agencies, individuals, especially dual citizens, can have their Australian citizenship revoked if they're found to pose a threat to national security. This can include suspicion of planning harmful acts, involvement with extremist groups, or even associating with people under surveillance. The most unsettling part, you may never see it coming. The Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, ASIO, can issue a confidential assessment that leads directly to citizenship cancellation. You might not get a hearing, a warning, or a second chance. In some cases, people were overseas when their citizenship was stripped and couldn't return home. No trial, no defense, just a government decision based on national security intelligence that you might not even be allowed to view or challenge right away. This is why it's crucial to be aware of who you associate with, what you post online, and what organizations you support, even passively. Guilt by association is very real in the world of intelligence and surveillance. If you're a dual citizen, understand that your second nationality makes you more vulnerable to these laws. This doesn't mean living in fear, but it does mean staying informed, cautious, and avoiding anything that could be perceived as a threat, even unintentionally. Because under these laws, suspicion alone can change your life forever. And once your citizenship is gone, there's often no clear path to get it back. If this video opened your eyes, drop a comment telling us which point shocked you the most. We read every single one because your voice matters. We pour hours into making content that protects your rights, so hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us. Number 4. Extended residency outside Australia. You might think that once you have your citizenship, you can live anywhere in the world without consequences. But here's the truth. Living overseas for too long, especially without strong ties back to Australia, can actually put your citizenship under scrutiny. While the law doesn't state a specific number of years that automatically triggers cancellation, the government can question your commitment to Australia if it looks like you've made another country your permanent home. This is particularly relevant for dual citizens or those who acquired citizenship by naturalisation. If you've been living abroad for several years, haven't paid Australian taxes, no longer have property, work, or family in the country, you may be seen as someone who has effectively abandoned their citizenship in practice, even if not legally. There have been cases where long-term expats were denied re-entry or flagged for review because their ties to Australia had faded significantly. So what should you do if you're living abroad or planning to? Make sure to maintain strong, ongoing connections to Australia. That could mean filing taxes, keeping an Australian bank account active, retaining property, or maintaining regular visits. If possible, keep your name on the electoral roll and make sure official documents like your passport and Medicare are up to date. Even small signs of commitment, like voting in federal elections while abroad, can help prove that Australia is still your home. In the eyes of the law, citizenship is not just a piece of paper, it's a relationship. And like any relationship, it needs attention. Let it fade, and you might wake up one day to find your status questioned and your passport no longer valid. Number 3. Children of revoked citizens. Here's a scenario most people never think about. What happens to the children when a parent loses their citizenship? In Australia, if a parent's citizenship is cancelled, especially due to national security issues or fraud, their children's citizenship can also come under review, particularly if the children were born overseas or gained citizenship through descent. In some heartbreaking cases, kids have been left in legal limbo, stuck between two countries and treated as if they don't fully belong to either. The law allows the government to consider the child's citizenship status invalid if it was granted as a result of the parent's now revoked status. That means the child's rights, access to healthcare, education, and even residency can all disappear overnight. Imagine growing up believing you're Australian, only to find out as a teenager or adult that your citizenship was never really secure. It's happened before, and it's a legal grey area that's deeply unsettling. So what can families do to protect themselves? If you or someone you know has recently had their citizenship questioned or revoked, or even if there's a chance of it, it's crucial to verify the legal status of any children involved. Don't assume that your child's citizenship is permanent just because they have an Australian birth certificate or passport. Seek legal advice and get everything properly documented, because when the government reviews a parent's case, it often looks at the entire family unit. And if there's any doubt about how the citizenship was acquired, children could get caught in the fallout. Innocent or not, they may have to fight for a status they never expected to lose. Number 2. Publicly renouncing citizenship. You might think renouncing your citizenship takes a pile of paperwork and a formal process, but here's the shocker. A public statement or action that clearly shows your intent to abandon Australia can, in some cases, be treated as a legal renunciation. That's right. A post, a video, a protest, or even a symbolic act made publicly and intentionally could potentially be used as evidence that you no longer wish to be an Australian citizen. There have been rare but serious cases where individuals made political or symbolic declarations, sometimes out of frustration, activism, or satire, saying they renounce their Australian citizenship. In a few of those cases, when combined with certain legal or administrative actions, like applying for another citizenship or refusing Australian consular assistance, the government interpreted it as a voluntary renunciation. Once processed, that decision is extremely difficult to reverse. You're not just making a statement, you might be erasing your rights. So, how do you avoid falling into this trap? First, treat citizenship like a legal contract, not just a personal identity. If you're expressing political views, be clear that you're exercising free speech, not renouncing your status. Avoid dramatic claims online like, "I don't want to be Australian anymore," unless you're ready to face the legal consequences. And if you're going through a rough patch with your citizenship or feeling angry at the system, don't act emotionally online. Words matter, especially when they're public and permanent. In the eyes of the law, even a symbolic gesture can carry real weight. So if you want to keep your citizenship, speak carefully and always mean what you say. Number 1. Supporting foreign governments against Australia. This is the most serious and least forgiving reason you could lose your Australian citizenship. Actively supporting a foreign government that is hostile to Australia. This doesn't just mean joining another country's military. It can include promoting propaganda, funding campaigns, spreading disinformation, or even working with organisations that act against Australia's national interests. In today's digital age, that could be something as simple as a social media campaign. And yes, it's happened before. The government takes this very seriously because it directly questions where your loyalty lies. If you're seen publicly supporting a foreign government that's in conflict with Australia, or even undermining Australia's foreign policy or democratic values, you could be labelled a national threat. This is especially dangerous for dual citizens, as the government can revoke your Australian citizenship while allowing your second citizenship to stand. You're effectively cut off, your passport cancelled, and your future in Australia erased. So how do you stay safe? Avoid political involvement in foreign affairs that directly oppose Australia's interests. Be mindful of what causes or campaigns you donate to, what organisations you're involved with, and especially what you post or share online. If you're engaging in global issues, always do so within the framework of Australian law. This isn't about silencing opinions. It's about recognising that citizenship comes with legal expectations of loyalty and conduct. Supporting a foreign government against your own country, even indirectly, can be interpreted as betrayal. And in legal terms, betrayal can cost you everything: your rights, your identity, your home. So speak freely, but stay informed and stay loyal, because citizenship isn't just a status, it's a bond. Australian citizenship is something many of us take for granted. We carry the passport, vote in elections, enjoy healthcare, and travel freely, believing it's a permanent part of who we are. But as we've seen today, that citizenship isn't always guaranteed. With changing laws and increasing national security measures, even long-time citizens can find themselves unexpectedly vulnerable. Whether it's through unknowingly violating immigration rules, spending too long overseas, making bold political statements, or being linked to the wrong people or organisations, your citizenship can be questioned or even cancelled. What's most surprising is that many of these situations don't involve criminal activity. Sometimes, it's just a matter of being careless, uninformed, or in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's why staying educated and aware isn't just smart, it's necessary. The good news? Now you know. And knowledge is power. If you've made it this far into the video, you're already ahead of most people who have no idea how fragile citizenship can be in certain situations. Make sure your documents are clean, your records are honest, your actions are lawful, and your ties to Australia are strong, especially if you're living overseas or holding dual citizenship. When it comes to protecting your identity and your rights, prevention is far easier than fighting for reinstatement. Let this video be a reminder. Citizenship is more than a passport. It's a responsibility, a privilege, and a legal agreement. Handle it with care, and it will protect you for life. Ignore the risks, and you could wake up one day without a country to call your own.